Alright, still got it. Oh, fuck it! Sonic Superstars was an absolute roller coaster ride for me. From its opening animated cutscene and joyfully familiar title screen, and going into a nostalgic yet original first zone, Superstars was nothing but an absolute treat for the senses. But as the game progressed, unfortunately, so did my suffering and bewilderment. With some of the most challenging levels and bosses I've ever experienced in a 2D Sonic game, as well as some questionable design choices to boot, Superstars initially left me feeling somewhat disappointed and empty by the time I finished its final campaign. But upon reflection and going in for a second try, I finally took hold of my senses and realised that I was never going to breeze through this game on my first attempt. And this is what happens when you know the OG 2D Sonic games off by heart. And this is a Sonic game after all, where multiple playthroughs give you a bigger sense of accomplishment through optimal routes and a grander knowledge of the game's bosses and overall mechanics. Does Superstars reach the heights of Sonic 2, 3 and Knuckles, or even the more recent Sonic Mania? Does Superstars have the potential to be considered one of the all-time greats in the 2D Sonic catalogue? Taking place between Sonic Mania and Sonic Adventure, Sonic Superstars sees the return of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Amy as they explore a brand new location known as the North Star Islands, where Dr. Robotnik plans to yet again take control of all animal life in an attempt to do his evil bidding, all the while trying to obtain the 7 Chaos Emeralds for supreme ultimate powers. However, this time Robotnik isn't alone. Long time no see, Fang the Hunter joins the dastardly scientists with the help of newcomer Trip the Sungazer, the guardian of the North Star Islands. But it's obvious from the start that Trip isn't quite in the same headspace as her supposed teammates. And of course, it's up to our team of multicoloured furballs to try and stop this evil bastard once and for all. Until the next time, of course. Much like 3 and Knuckles and the more recent Sonic Mania, Superstar's story is told predominantly through in-game actions, with zero dialogue throughout most of its zones. It's very cool to now see your crew traversing the background of some of the levels this time around. This helps give the unit more presence and depth, all playing their part in preventing the bad guys from succeeding in their despicable schemes, and so it doesn't feel like you're just a one hedgehog army, so to speak. However, unlike 3 and Knuckles and Mania, it can be a little difficult to figure out what exactly is going on within the story and why.
What the fuck?
But how does Sonic Superstars actually feel like to play? Imagine going to a fairground and being told you couldn't ride on your favourite attraction, but then later on figuring out a way to get around that so you could enjoy it after careful consideration and planning. And that's the best analogy I can think of, but I'll elaborate. For starters, I can confirm this does feel like the OG 2D Sonic games, for the most part. Controlling your character and the momentum feels good and responsive, but the signature spin dash move feels a little lackluster in this one. And it's also worth noting that every character now has the same exact jump height as each other. Knuckles, who was previously known to have the worst jump in the OG 2D games, can now jump just as high as the rest of them. The characters still have their own defining characteristics and movesets, such as Tails' flying ability or Amy's double jump and hammer, but it seems the developers wanted to keep things more simple this time around. A good thing too, because I'll get to that in a bit. And gone now is the signature life count system, which used to be displayed in the bottom left of the screen, which I absolutely hate, as well as your score count in the upper left corner. There just seems to be less to brag about now, with more emphasis on handing out participation medals, if you catch my drift. 2D Sonic games were never about getting through the levels as fast as possible for me, but rather in racking up as much score as I could while still considering the most optimal routes. I guess after the release of Origin's modern mode, the era of desperately grasping onto your last set of lives is pretty much over and done with. Shame. Now the zones in Superstars are all fantastic in my opinion, every single one of them. And I know this will get me some downvotes, but even more so than in Mania, which I honestly wasn't too fond of, believe it or not. Yes, I know I'm in the minority in this one, and it's a subject for another video in the future, but I won't lie, I had a blast on every single level in this game. Consisting of 11 zones, which include optional fruits and character-specific acts, each level has its own unique characteristics and gimmicks. Pinball Carnival's roller coasters and Cyberstation's pixel segments all do extremely well in keeping things fresh and interesting. The level designs are all great here. This is how a modern 2D Sonic game should be. There's also the addition of the world map, which gives you an overview of all the zones in the game. It's here you can also change characters, review your collected emeralds, and touch up on your acquired special abilities, and I'll get to those soon. As you progress through each zone, you'll be noticing a lot of passive or important things happening in the backgrounds. In Press Factory, for example, you'll notice the factory in the distance and see a gradual countdown before the stage thrusts you up from the ground, where you'll remain vulnerable for a second or so. But that is unless you plan your jumps correctly, of course. Throughout the game, you'll have the opportunity to collect either fruit for the side acts previously mentioned, or medals, which give you access to customizable gear for taking your own avatar online in the game's battle mode. Now this and co-op I haven't really delved into all that much, due to the honest fact that I really couldn't care less. So in the interest of fairness, I'll leave them out of this particular review. It's all about the main game here. The series special and bonus stages are still here with a new and interesting twist on obtaining the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic & Co will now have to swing their way to victory in order to obtain each of the powerful emeralds, which, aside from granting super abilities once obtaining all 7, will now also grant the team a set of unique special abilities to aid in their adventure. Now I wasn't sure about this mechanic at first, as I was stubbornly convinced that they were merely tacked on to make the game easier, and in truth, for the large part of my first playthrough, I kind of forgot they were even there. But no, trust me, pretty much every ability has a very useful purpose in Superstars. The Bullet and Ivy specials are great for reaching giant rings out of reach, for example, while the Avatar and Slow specials can aid in hordes of enemies, bosses, and even more. Now speaking of bosses, this is where shit started to go downhill for me. These are tough. In fact, these are the toughest bosses I've ever fought in any Sonic game, 2D or otherwise. Sonic 1's Labyrinth Zone gave you trouble? You thought Metropolis Zone was bad? Just wait until you get to this game's penultimate boss. Ages 3 and over, SEGA? Really? Fuck off. And what's worse is that it now takes so much time to defeat the majority of bosses in Superstars, because you now have to wait a set amount of time before landing your next hit. For example, in previous games, you could try your luck at landing multiple hits on a boss, but at the potential cost of losing your momentum and getting hit. There was no real waiting time before, and so bosses could usually be done and dusted with in a quick amount of time. But in Superstars, you've got to plug through what feels like ages of waiting due to the combination of in-game cutscenes and landing your next attack. Now I'm not being funny here, but when the majority of SEGA's target audience has ADD, and I'm one of them, you'd think the developers would cut to the chase a bit more, you know what I mean? During my 23 hours of playtime, I didn't really notice many bugs or glitches in Superstars, save for a couple which I admittedly found mildly amusing. Hopefully SEGA though will sort these out in due course. Once you complete the game, another story becomes available where you play as Trip. Now this is basically New Game Plus on the game's hardest mode. It is no joke guys. And while Trip has some great movesets which include a double jump and the ability to stick and roll around on walls and ceilings, I think this character is currently my favourite in the game. It won't matter much when you now have to deal with additional enemies that are about as fair as a rigged card game. But when all is said and done, there is one constant. Sonic Superstars is an absolute treat for the eyes and ears. Upon first hearing the soundtrack before the game's release, I was unfortunately reminded of Sonic 4's music, which felt uninspired, flat and generally lacking. However, I can now say, much to my own surprise, that Superstars has some of the best music in any Sonic game I've ever played. Period. So much so that to this day, I am constantly finding myself humming along to tunes such as Cyber City, Bridge Island, the main menu track and Fang's boss theme. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, at times I can hear the Sonic 4 music make an appearance in some of the soundtracks, but overall the music in Superstars gave me nothing but good vibes and some well-received nostalgia too. Superstars takes yet more inspiration from 3 and Knuckles in that each act has its own unique music, furthering the freshness of the game as well as giving you a sense of progression, and upon selecting one of the 7 Chaos Emerald special abilities, each one actually has its own charming theme. I'm particularly fond on the Vision theme, which allows Sonic & Co to access hidden platforms and rings. I don't know what it is about this one, I just find it to be cute for some reason. Sonic Superstars is an absolutely gorgeous game to behold. Everything is bright, colourful, succulent and juicy. Even the darker levels have such a good contrast to them, and admittedly, on a 4K enabled display, everything just seems to pop out in dazzling satisfaction. As a fan of the OGs and Mania's pixel presentation, I was surprised to find myself enjoying this just as much in 3D. I guess I still have bad memories of Sonic 4 lingering in my head. It just lacked the originality and fluidity that Superstars seems to take in its stride. Better late than never, eh? For me, Sonic Superstars feels like the true successor to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and feels more like what Sonic 4 should have been. It takes most of the game's best bits while incorporating some mildly innovative mechanics that actually do make a bit of a difference. And coming from a 2D Sonic enthusiast, believe me when I say that's quite the compliment. Superstars feels mostly entirely fresh. It stands on the shoulders of what came before, but delivers a new and exciting experience I think most 2D Sonic fans can appreciate. Unfortunately, however, Sonic Superstars is far from smooth sailing, and it's these particular imperfections that only hinders what would have been a true winner in the 2D Sonic genre. The level of difficulty here is questionable. I'm not asking for a hugely easier time, just less instances where one may feel so hot that they're more inclined to go out committing murders, or something to that effect. Regardless, Sonic Superstars mostly gets it right. It engaged me, broke me, built me back up, and now I can honestly say that I'll be revisiting this title over the years to come. Sonic Superstars is a great game, and well worth any Sonic fan's time, and believe me, you'll need a lot of that. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below what you thought about Sonic Superstars. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.